Hello. Today is Maundy Thursday, and for our meditation we are turning to the passage we'll actually be looking at in our communion service in church, one of the best known incidents in the Gospels. So let me read John 13, 1-17. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and to go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel round his waist. After that he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped round him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." "Then, Lord," Simon Peter replied, "not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well." Jesus answered, "Those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet, and their whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you." For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not every one was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I've set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them." And that reading from John's Gospel it's so well known, isn't it? Jesus washing his disciples' feet. It is the great example of service. But what did it all mean? When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. And actually, I think he'd done 4 things for them. One of them obvious, but the other 3 were actually the important ones. At first, the obvious one. Jesus had shown his love for his disciples, and so had shown them what love really means, how far real love will go. He had met their need, despite the fact that they would never have expected him to do it. He'd showed them that even though he was the Messiah, the King, their teacher and Lord, he hadn't come to be served, but to serve. But that didn't mean that he'd come to do whatever they wanted. Jesus came to serve, but that didn't mean the disciples were his master. He was still master, but he knew what they needed, and he had come to meet that need. But all that's quite obvious. And so in verse 7, Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." In Jesus' mind, this wasn't just about washing their feet. It pointed towards something else. And the clue is just a verse later. "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." Peter needed cleaning. Not just cleaning from the dust on his feet, but cleaning from the sin from his life. Jesus washing the disciples' feet was a picture of what he was going to do for them on the cross. And it was helping to prepare them for the cross. Here, in the upper room, the master took on the role of a servant. He humbled himself, but was still completely in control of the situation. He chose to do something humiliating because they needed him to. And that is just what the cross would involve. The foot washing was shocking to Jesus' disciples, but not half as shocking as the idea of a Messiah who would die the hideous and shameful death of a crucifixion, the death of the damned. But both in the upper room and on the cross, the Messiah did take on the role of a servant for the good of others. Jesus going to the cross was something that, whether they realised it or not, they needed. And unless they were willing to accept that act of service from Jesus, they could never be part of his kingdom. So first and foremost, when Jesus washed his disciples' feet, it was a picture of what he was going to do on the cross. When John starts here by telling us, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end, I don't think he was primarily referring to the foot washing. The ultimate demonstration of Jesus' love was on the cross. The foot washing helped them, and it helps us to understand the cross. But I know very well that even though Jesus has cleansed me, I still get dirty feet. I walk through this fallen world, and even though I'm a child of the kingdom, even though my sins have been washed away, I pick up some of the rubbish of this world. The cleansing of the heart and the mind, which come with being born again, don't prevent us from picking up all sorts of dirt on our journey. I think that's what Jesus was getting at when he said, a person who has had a bath needs only to wash his feet, his whole body is clean. He's changed the picture to meet Peter's objection. Only Jesus can bring that total washing, and without that you are still in your sins and not part of the kingdom. But even after that, you still need regularly to wash your spiritual feet. That's why confession is so important. When I confess, it's like having my feet washed again. And there's one more thing. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I've done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example, that you should do as I have done for you. We should be like Jesus. I don't for one moment think that Jesus meant that we should literally wash one another's feet, though I know that in some churches that is done. But I'm sure Jesus was thinking about what he'd been showing them through the foot washing. We should serve each other like Jesus served his disciples. Not by going to the cross, of course, only Jesus could do that, and there is no need for it to be repeated. But like Jesus, we should be looking to see what others need us to do, and then doing it, regardless of the inconvenience. We should be serving others, not because we have to, but because, like Jesus, we choose to. It doesn't mean always doing what others want us to, because sometimes what others might want is different from what they need. That means that sometimes our service will be misunderstood and unappreciated. Judas certainly misunderstood what Jesus was doing when he washed his feet. But still we do it, because we are called to be like Jesus. And so here we see Jesus, the one who loves us. We see Jesus, the one who died for us. We see Jesus, the one who continually can cleanse us. And we see Jesus, our example of service.